At my day.
Good evening, this is our monthly EDA meeting. And it's 6:30, it's March 25th. So with that.
All right.
Rebecca.
Rylan,
Here.
Jamie,
Here.
Adam,
Here.
Kathy,
Here.
Jan,
Here.
Daniel. Not here.
Right, so we have a copy of the February 25th. I think that's supposed to be the March 25th meeting agenda, right? No,
Yes, sorry, I did not update that portion.
No, it's correct. So we're in March right now, so it's back to
yeah,
February.
It's correct.
we know where we're at.
Well, no, because it's saying the agenda.
Approval of, oh, I hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got both of those. I'll fix that for you. It's right on my computer.
I'll make a motion to approve the March meeting agenda. Comments? All those favors, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So attached is a copy of the February 25th EDA meeting minutes. Changes or anything in the minutes? Seeing none, I'll make a motion, we approve meeting minutes.
I'll second.
All the comments, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All right, so under new business, it doesn't look like we have any commercial permits that were submitted. You can confirm, yeah, I'm gonna say I didn't think so. The next thing on here is our community branding proposal review, so you should all have a copy of all three of them, as well as kind of a different, like a scoring sheet, whether you choose to use it or not, but I want to just go through each section of the scorecard and discuss each proposal as we go through there, or do we want to discuss each proposal individually one at a time? I think either is gonna work. It's just a matter of what makes it easier for everyone. If you want to have all three, but going question by question, or if we want to just go one at a time. Might be easier just to stick with one document, but.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's fine.
All right, so the first one that we have then is the tulip tree marketing. And the tulip tree for the proposal of work, that one is worth the estimated cost of 18 to 22,000. They're expecting it to be approximately 20,000. And that does include the brand rollout. So promotion of brand. Each of the Orinoco departments, that would be something that they are able to include. Because they do have logo design and tagline development. And what they specifically call the identity package design to make sure that it works for all different departments. For maintenance and consistency of brand image. Again, I do think that was covered in here. I don't know if you guys have any questions, comments about these particular portions.
Can you remind me what because there's a grant that covers, I'm gonna cover the cost of this, correct? Or what
Yes,
we-
10,000, yep.
10,000. And then is there any dollars allocated in the current budget for this work, or is there just the grant that we currently have to cover it?
It would be through the city. Is the city actually looking to continue with this process, or?
Oh, we'd like to, yeah.
Okay.
It's just, we've got to figure out money and figure out where everything comes from, but a lot of it was relying on the grant. And we were hoping to have a little bit extra.
Okay.
Much time as I got taxed, so,
Okay.
we'd like to continue moving forward though. It needs to be done,
Yeah.
so we'll find a way to figure it out.
Because right now we've only got the 10,000 for the grant, but as far as the city approving additional funds, do we think that that's,
I will do everything in my power to find a way to make it happen.
You say the grant's at a point where it's like a slam dunk, we already have the funds or?
oh, you already approved the grant, yep, so we have the 10,000, we just need to make sure that we can get the city to approve the remainder. But they'll have to essentially be approving that when they approve, if they approve one of these.
Sure.
So they'll have to make sure that there's funds, and we'll keep looking. I can certainly keep looking for additional funds for it. Just depends on what grants are open at what times.
If we get a grant later on, can we retroactively apply the funding for it?
Well, I guess I shouldn't say no. Typically, no. I guess it would depend on the grant, but most of the time, if you've already done it, they go for projects that are in the works. That, and I think we only have a year to get to,
Yeah, but
To
my
do
only
what
other
can.
thought is if we spread out, like cost, like say, okay, we choose one and $15,000, well, we can use up 10 from the grant. And then we have 5,000 remaining, can we work something out with the company where it has to be paid by end of year type of thing, you know what I mean? Like spread out the cost of it over the year, so we're not.
and I'm sure that's something that they'd be, that each of these would be willing to look into.
Yeah, that way, if we get another grant later on, well, we can still potentially do some, I know we've done that with some of the other ones.
Yep. Phase 1, phase 2,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Absolutely. Tulip Tree also is the only one that we didn't need to ask for additional information from.
Can you speak just a little bit to the people that own it and your feelings, communicating with them, or do you not have any?
I only know what is in these packets.
Strictly, yeah, no communications.
Yep. I do know that we have a colleague of mine who works in Redfield, and they're a big fan of Severs. Cracker Jack, I do know.
The three marketing companies originally came to you through a channel of colleagues of yours? Is that
Well,
how
I
you-
put out an RFP, and then they're the responses to that RFP.
Yeah.
But Tracy, I guess, is the only one that I know personally at Cracker Jack. And for her, I just know that she's an incredibly hardworking individual, and she's very easy to work with, very personable.
I've professionally worked with the Tulip Tree team
Yeah.
before.
So is your intent tonight to decide, or are we gonna just talk about these?
Well,
Take the
we-
information back and come back next month and make a decision, or?
No, tonight, because we said that we were gonna do that last month when we had them. So we were going to review them again this evening, and then tonight we would make a recommendation to council. And then council will then decide at the meeting next month.
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
Yep.
It's a bit difficult because all of them are over our budget. So it's difficult to start, like, I appreciated the scorecard because we can start to evaluate them. Each of them, it's still hard because it's not apples to apples, because some include travel while others are not.
Yep.
And there's all these different kind of extra costs through them. There's one train of thought in my mind is if they could all submit for 10,000 to say, what can we accomplish in 10,000 could be a potential, because that's what we have.
Okay,
without
we
putting
didn't
extra
put that
pressure.
in the RFP though.
Agree. I totally understand that. But I don't want to paint city council into a corner by expectations of that we need this in order to move forward with something. So I think we just need to kind of think about like, what are some paths through it? Or I know each of them have broken them down into phases.
Yeah.
But it seems like each of the phases are dependent on the next phase, depending on what we're looking for.
That we would be able to also take a look and say, hey, we're just looking at doing this portion with this company.
Mhm.
So we wouldn't have to take their entire proposal, but we could break it down.
Mhm.
Because they were told that we had a $10,000 grant, but that we were anticipating additional funding.
Sure.
Well, in my opinion, you don't get much for $10,000 nowadays,
No,
when you're looking for something like this, and so the grant to do that, to ask companies come in and do something, the bare minimum, you would be happy with the bare minimum, what you got going in the first place, and,
we also wouldn't be able to accept the full 10,000 if if we went for something that it was 10,000 even, just because of the fact that we have to have those matching funds. It doesn't have to be an additional 10,000, but we do have to show some matching funds.
Okay.
Is there a guideline for that? Could we do 10,100 or does it need to be 12,000?
No, it'll be like 25%, but also majority of it is already put in by my time. So the city's paid for my time, or the EDA has,
Right.
and so I get to do that as well. So that takes care of the majority of it. Because it'll be all the time on the RFP, reviewing all that stuff, and then whatever the city puts in.
if, again, too, is if we went back and if people put a better package together or whatever, you can only go to well so many times to have people to put something forward before they just walk away and say, we've already put enough time in there, not making a decision, they want something we can't give them. That's impossible. So that, again, it comes down to me, to the city of Orinoco, the council of Orinoco. As the city manager said, he'd like to see it happen. And it depends on whether Orinoco wants a branding thing or they don't want a branding thing. So it's, if they kicked in 5,000, if we looked at $15,000, they got 10,000. So Orinoco actually putting in $5,000 into something for a $15,000 project. So I guess that's how I look at it. You gotta put something to get something.
Yeah, and then that's kind of the general guidelines, or guidance that I was given when initially started this project too, is that the city would be putting some funds in.
It would be helpful to have our city council representative. He couldn't come tonight.
Ryland is also on the city council.
Ryland, but
Daniel,
Daniel also, yeah.
Yeah, he was out of town. Where did you say, Florida?
So I guess, Ryan, what are your thoughts?
well, the one thing that caught my eye, I'm just kind of looking to see if the other two have, is that it's Severs. They have a schedule, a project schedule. Kind of caught my eye, and I don't see that in the Cracker Jack, and I don't see that in the.
They have high level kind of layouts of timelines. Tulip says
Is there there?
16 to 30 weeks, 4 to 7 weeks. Sorry, proposal word first page.
Oh, okay. Good, thank you.
And then Cracker Jack, I know we had asked them for additional phase 2 breakdowns, so further towards the back, they have the phase 1 showing there, and then the phase 2 on the following pages for each of the sections, they've got it outlined, and then the total estimated cost there. So that would be something where, like what Jason had suggested, we could say we want to do all of phase 1, and then maybe we do the execution and resource allocation, or we just do the promotional campaign. But we can certainly put together those and then work towards funding for additional pieces of that puzzle.
I've been, like I said, I missed last meeting and been kind of out of it with funerals and stuff, but has the city council had the opportunity to talk a little bit more about their support of branding? Because the last time I know, there's no majority support there, or there didn't seem to be.
Yeah, we did talk about it. I think their emphasis right now, not emphasis, with our coding and with the P and Z coding and everything, and I think that's kind of, at least for a couple of the members of the council, that's where their interests are at. But I did sense it wasn't a wow, let's do this.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I don't believe we really had a good story for him either. To really explain to him what we want to do and the cost of it too, so. I don't think we talked about cost in the last time.
well, it just, yeah, but it just seemed like it was resistance and it's like,
None of the resistance is. They don't know what they don't know what they don't know, I guess, but
okay, so we had any, in the last couple of months, have we done anything to help educate or?
no, we haven't taken these to the council. Because we were sure how we were going to do it, so
Yeah,
it may take some. For education, I think you're right, once we decide we have to justify why we want this company versus that company.
but why we're even doing it, I mean, I heard a council member say, you know, we've already got the Gold Rush logo, what do we need more branding for?
Yeah,
Right,
I
but
mean,
the
there's
city's
not
no
even,
longer doing Gold Rush.
there's no, I understand, but I mean,
Yeah.
there was like no concept that of coming up with a logo or coming up with a saying for your town and actual branding, and it didn't, I just was, I guess, concerns that if they don't understand, or if that's where we've got to start, and that's where we probably should have started.
I think. I guess I don't know, but I imagine that having this grant, this $10,000 as a budget for us, if we set that as our budget and try to keep to that, there's probably no reason why the city wouldn't be supportive of that, right? If it's all coming from grants, and it sounds like
Exactly.
from what Jason was implying, at least, that there is interest or openness to maybe spending a bit more than 10,000, but probably not the 30 or 35 that we usually could on certain pathways. So I don't know that city council would be trying to shoot things down if the end budget that we brought to them was $1,150 or $1,200. I guess I don't know.
No, and I didn't anticipate that, but yeah, I'm looking at
But if it's 20, 25,
34,000,
right.
21,000.
Right, and is that something that our city size and scope should be budgeting that much for marketing?
And
I have no
well, and in
idea.
these proposals, does it say, okay, here's what you get for $10,000, here's what you get
Yes.
for 15?
Yeah,
Yeah, each
and
of
that's
them
the
have
nice
a
thing.
breakdown in them.
Okay,
Yeah, Cracker Jack seems real easy, like the 1, 2 step, or the first step 7,500, and then second phase is to be determined, but how much we need from them in order to determine that, so.
Well, and that's where they also in the back, they've got, for the to be determined portion, it's, you know, the promotional campaign part is 9,500. If we wanted to do brand support after the fact, that would be at 1,500 to 3,500 a month, but we wouldn't need that. I wouldn't imagine a month by month marketing plan, I don't think, or management. But the promotional campaign being done is an $8,000 portion, so it depends on which items
We
we're
wanna
looking
leave
at.
off.
Mhm.
Is our primary goal to come up with a new brand for the community? Is that the idea, right? Is the primarily like the thing that we're selling or pushing or publicizing? That's kind of the chief, right?
Well, would you like to kind of say what you're hoping to,
What was the question?
what is kind of your goal with the community branding for what is it that you'd like to have come out of it? Like, are you looking just for logos? Are you looking for a marketing campaign or?
Marketing campaign would be nice, but as we're trying to grow, but at the same time, that's, I think for me, lower on it. I'm looking to update, okay, the simple things of our logo, what are our colors, what are our schemes, what are, like, let's get something, let's get us re-identified. And so we can start building, like, I worked on the city webpage this year, and they're like, what are your colors? I don't know. What's your logo? I don't know. I'm making this up as I go to, try to do stuff, but it's things like that where that can help create cohesion and unity at our level, and we can start going from there. I need stuff to be able to put on templates on paper when we hand things out. All of our memos and all of our paperwork still has the goal, home of the downtown gold rush and the bridge and like outdated stuff. It would be nice to, as we're trying to update everything. simply
Yeah, just
update
get a
the city
fresh
as well.
look.
So what I'm hearing to some degree though is maybe that logo is a big piece of it, right? And that perhaps ongoing monthly expenditures to push us out in different directions or to promote Orinoco may be a lower priority reasonably. I guess I don't know. I'm just, that's why I'm
That's my
asking.
understanding. My understanding is the approach was to help us give us new tools so that we can apply them to our current things like website or print. but then would help position us later when we're starting to do our outreach, which we're not at that phase yet of our work.
Yep.
But we needed to at least refresh.
Yeah.
And I think it was identified in, even in our community engagement, that, you know, it's not to completely change what we're doing, it's just to make sure that we have one consistent look and feel.
Yep, that makes sense.
But if we had a variety of logos we could go to for things, you know, so like a university or even probably like Mayo or some of these places, they've got their main logo and then there's slight alterations to it for different departments or different whatever, but they're all branded under their university or under their business. You know, so something like that where we could have something in our pack to go, okay, we're gonna use this for this, but have it ready to go.
Yeah.
And have it, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And it's not, so it sounds like with some of these, the phase one will get us what we're after largely, but we're after that brandable piece, that distributable thing, that icon that you link with Orinoco more so than, hey, get a lot of viewers to our website or whatever, which makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like we're gonna grow pretty organically on our own, or there's gonna be a lot of interest in our community to grow, where maybe we wouldn't need to spend thousands of dollars a month on marketing the community, but by all means,
Get the brand.
Even doing like a small brochure that would be able to be sent out to potential new business owners who are interested in building or moving
Exactly.
here, or people who are interested in just coming here, or the very first time they move here, it'll have all of that information about what makes Orinoco special and what does Orinoco have available. Those types of things I think are really, really invaluable.
There was community feedback when we had our engagement back a year ago. Of the need to have that recognition, and maybe it's just I see a logo, part of the logo, or 3 or 4 designs for a logo, getting some community feedback.
Right.
What they think something might look like, so.
Yep, and I think all 3 of them, because I did put in the RFP a requirement that there be community outreach. So I believe all 3 of them have that as a portion of their process.
But there's simple things I'd like to do around town, like the light pole flag banners, or if we have a city flag, or some of these things that we could help promote ourselves out on the streets and, you know, places. I can't do that until I have something to put on.
right, and those things, I think of like Byron Bear is not, we don't have a school here, but
Yeah.
the bear is something that they rally around to recognize
And they've
with,
got a
right?
giant statue in their
Right.
near their roundabout. Like, if
Right. Something that makes you feel like you're part of the community,
Yeah.
or something that you recognize as, I think that's a good plan.
there's a lot of little things we wanna do, but I'm not gonna do it because I don't have any of the backing for it, and that's what this purpose is for.
Need the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to share some thoughts, just some initial feedback for the group to start with, perhaps. I think all of the organizations did a great job at responding, and I appreciate the extra work they needed to gather it more, because I think we were missing some pieces. It seems like Seavers Creative is inclusive, like it has everything we're looking for, but the price is pretty extensive. And I think because of their location, there's quite a bit of travel costs associated with the 34,700. So I think the quality of work that they put out is great, but the costs associated with them are pretty high. That was my first reaction to that one.
And I did share, just so that you guys know, with each of the 3 companies, I did share what the totals were from the other groups. So they were aware too. I said, you know, hey, you are the one with the highest amount. And so they did say that they took that into account.
I think that both the other 2 for me, the Cracker Jack and Tulip Tree, and when you just look at the phase 1 of Cracker Jack, and then Tulip Tree is just 1 scope of work. There's really not 2 in there. It seems like inclusive to like our RFP of wanting brand identity and the support of how we apply it in different ways. Tulip Tree seems to have the most amount of tools in their package to do so. So they're setting up brand guidelines, which is like, they give you a template to say, how do you apply it so you don't lose that look and feel? And then the sub brands, so if it's a certain department or another way we want to use it, is all included. And then it looks like some support about how we would apply it in different ways and support that. I also appreciated in their proposal that they included a number of different cities like Winona, Harmony and others, which I thought was helpful. I thought that their examples of where they started to where they ended and the applications of were really great too. So, clearly how they kind of worked through their initial process. What does it look on the paper? What does it look on their water tower, on their, city vehicles and so forth?
Mhm.
I thought it was just a really great way to see how it could be applied. With the Cracker Jack one, I think they're phase 2. It was great to see, but very extensive. And I think at this point services that we would not need, but I appreciate them helping us to understand what would be to come
Mhm.
with it. But felt like it wasn't as clear as what the deliverables would be based upon the tulip tree proposal. So it's kind of my review, if that's helpful.
It is.
To start.
Can I ask if you're gonna just pick one based off of your overall feeling, which one you would go with?
I think that the tulip tree proposal is a great proposal. I think they did a really nice job responding to the RFP, giving us very specific examples. It is over the current, I don't know, but 10,000.
Budget by 2x.
So I think, what are they at, 20?
18 to 22.
Yeah. I noticed that there's a 7,500 project management research consulting breakout. And my first assumption was that each of these steps, there was dollars in that. So I just wonder, is there a way to reduce the fee some, or if they have some flexibility in that? Would be my follow-up question to them if we're over our budget. For what people are comfortable spending, based upon city council feedback.
Phase 2 on Cracker Jack. Honestly, I saw it's on the red page upside down, right? Is there a breakdown their costs of phase 2 or?
Correct, yeah, each one, so it says execution and resource allocations, 4,000, promotional campaign internal, 8,000.
Okay,
I think these are all really good tools and it gives us a good cue of what is to come or how we may want to think about doing this. I think it's quite extensive for our community of I think in my mind, once we have the look and feel, we would go back to our work plan that you've created and that we've prioritized. And we would work together to figure out what are the things, the tools that we need as we move forward based upon that work plan. So not all of these would be applicable to us at this
Right.
point. We're not gonna do promotional TV ads if that's
Right.
really not where we're at. But they're, I think, showing us that they have the ability to do that if we need.
and then did the 7,500 get us the logo?
Yeah, it looks like the final deliverable, if you are phase 1. Oh, gosh.
Logo development, yeah, is
Yeah.
on there.
The deliverable of phase 1, says number 5, final initiative, present the refined grand guide and strategic plan for approval. Conduct a final review meeting with decision makers and present the finalized brand as the plans. All right, these aren't numbered.
No, that's okay. I had seen that earlier too, the
Yep.
7,500. I thought that was inclusive, but wanted to make sure.
Yep.
So I have a question, tulip tree. Could you stop at the sub-branding, the global design, stop there? That'd be 12.5. And stop at that point, because it sounds to me that everyone wanted it covers the logo design, your identity package, covers a lot of things. At 12.5, you stop there. And they got 7,500 after that, and the 1,000 come 20,000. My point being is, it kind of gets what you were looking for. You're getting sort of the branding and the logo. We stop at 12.5. At that point, and if another grant or something come up in the future, I guess I'm taking baby steps for everybody here to kind of show them. And once maybe they see your logo design, maybe if they see that if you want to put the flags on the street, and you want to do something, then maybe a council will say, well, we're ready to move on to the next step, and maybe there'll be some grant money in the future that you could move on to the next steps, and if something isn't working out right, say, well, we'd like to change this and call them back in and say, you know, is there some way we can do something? I like tool trees. I look through this stuff and I look at the things. If you stop right there at that, they've kind of covered
Right.
what we've all talked about. I don't know.
Project management portion, I just want to throw out there, that's the community engagement piece. So that's going to be the subcommittee that they're going to put together, the steering committee, sorry, facilitating and leading the focus groups. So that piece is needed in order to come up with the deliverable, if that makes sense.
But then you're back to $20,000, and right now I don't see the $20,000 happening.
That 7,500 is necessary to get the logo?
Yeah,
It's necessary to get anything.
it's like integrated into their
It's
project
managing
plan,
the
so it's the overall project plan.
Okay, so if you do that, and they gotta get the $7,500, then we go back to the thing and we could do the $7,500 in logo design. And you come up with that, and they can do a logo design and things like that, and you do that. And there's a point where you stop and do things, because if they want their money to do the one part of it, that's $7,500. And maybe we go up to 13 or whatever, pick a couple more things out of there, but,
Yeah.
that's how I'm seeing this thing to go forward for any approval from the council, or what we're getting is that you gotta pay them the 7,500, and then we pick out some of the stuff, to do that. As far as the feedback, I think that you could have a town hall meeting, or we could have something, a joint meeting, people come and they lay some things on the thing, and after they give us it, that way we can kind of do that ourselves without bringing them in to pay, I mean, and come back and say, this is a design that the people can't want. Just my thought process of how I can break this down to get something presentable of 12, 13,000. If you got 10, the council comes up with $3,500. We've got a logo coming forward, and you got your banners, so, you know, because it says they're gonna do some different, create 3 to 5 different logos. Okay, you might be able to use one of those logos as a permanent, might you be able to take another one and say, on a given date, we can use this one. That's just my thought process on tulip tree is I guess what I lean for, and I look at the designs and I look at things, that's what I look for. That's just my thought. If that's possible, we can do that, or I don't know if we have to take the whole package, or it's all or nothing, or, like I said, to do that.
And I think that, like, if you were, for example, wanting to get rid of the brand guidelines, that's certainly, you could, that would eliminate 2,000, because that's what that piece is. So I think not saying that that's one you should get rid of or not, but I do think that they would allow for picking and choosing. And with project management, I do feel like we might be able to have it at a lower cost if we aren't expecting each of these items on here. If we eliminate certain items, there's possibility of them being able to renegotiate those prices.
So the question is $2,000, if I got the logo, you know what the logo is, so I really need them to tell me how to put it on a letterhead. I mean, it says there, I mean, the identity is that, and it will include templates for letterheads, envelopes, business cards, email. The point is, and that'll be my next question. Usually artists never release a total design. When you go to Sign Tech and you go to things and they design something, they own it and you own it even though you pay for it.
It was in our RFP that any and all resulting products of this are going to become the ownership of the city of Orinoco. So that is definitely,
Okay, but I'm just saying
secure
that
on
some of
that.
the artists, in doing that, they always keep the rights to things and things, and then you pay a little bit more. But again, if we paid them for the logo, the $2,000, show them how to put it on an envelope. I got the logo. I think we could figure out, people could figure out to go to the printers to figure out how to put that logo on an envelope. I mean, that's $2,000 to me that you don't need to do, and so there's 2,000 there, and the brand guidelines, the $2,000 out of that, that's $4,000 right there.
I mean, I wonder if a path through this could be, because I'm not a marketing specialist or expert. I mean, interact with these things on a regular basis, but if there is an organization that we feel comfortable with based upon their proposal, and we bring that forward for city council for approval, perhaps they're the ones then that could set the budget, where then that allows us to have conversations, or yourself to have conversations with whatever organization is approved to negotiate and rescope the project. Because I think they could come back and say, you know, based upon the needs or most immediate needs of the city, what makes sense to keep, or maybe there's less of something that we need than what the original proposal came with. So I would agree with you that the engagement, I think, is gonna be incredibly important as we continue to build like transparency and trust, and that continues to show up. And having them be a part of that would be important, but maybe we can better scope that out, and the price could come down a bit, but I think having their expertise and saying, what can we get it down to, and then not knowing what the city is willing to contribute, from the city council side, having that number would be helpful as well. We know what we need to adjust on any of these.
So you're saying we pick one, you know, we can pick one tonight and then
Yeah.
they can fine tune and say, this is what we want, this is, we're taking some stuff out. Come back with a price so we can present it. That way we're not keeping two more involved with more time. These people are the ones we want to select. And therefore, they're gonna be it, we just gotta know the money amount.
Sounds like a motion.
Is the action
Yeah.
from city council, would it be two actions, one to approve, like the proposal and then a budget item that goes with
I
it?
think, because what we'll do after tonight is, we aren't gonna select anything. We're just going to be able to recommend to council. Council will be the ones that are making all of the decisions following that. So they'll be able to, yes, say, hey, yep, I also think, because in our recommendation, we can say, hey, we think you should leave this out and we should have a negotiated price down to X number. Then council can take a look at that and they might be able to, at the end of it, say, we want to go with this one if they can make sure that we get it at this price.
I'll put a motion that I put a motion that we accept Tulip Tree. As the provider and, start there with Tulip Tree and select them. To move forward with Tulip Tree on. the
Maybe,
branding.
yeah, just to vote, technically, we recommend to city
You're
council
recommending, you're not.
that tulip tree be, the
Okay,
one that we look at and, yeah,
okay, so my motion is we recommend.
There we go.
My motion is we recommend Tulip Tree to the city council.
And then would we also want to add on some of those other pieces? You know, our recommendation for what we would want to include or not include, a recommended budget to negotiate to. I just think that it's something that way the council has a starting point. And they don't kind of,
Staff informed, I think we have to be careful about what we want to put, like, I think, Jason, I'm looking at you too, like, feel like.
Yeah.
We don't interact with that on a regular basis, it's our recommendation based upon our work plan. And their response to the RFP is to move forward with Tulip Tree. I think it's up to council then to move forward, what is your thoughts, Jason? How that
My
works?
thought is, they're gonna bring this back because you're bringing Tulip Tree with all this stuff and you don't really have the guidelines and well, this is what we actually want, and this is the cost, and we're gonna delay this even more. My thought is pick one and go, okay, this is the one we want, let's meet with them as the EDA, let's get this figured out, so this is our proposal to council. We went from this 21,000 down to this, we've got it laid out to do X, Y, Z, it's gonna cost this much, this will be covered by grant. If we figure out maybe we can work it to later, some budget stuff later. Really, so I think sitting down with the company first before going to council is doing it the proper way.
okay,
In my
I
mind,
just want to throw out though, that was not a part of our RFP process. So that is something that they could actually charge us then for, because there's going to be travel involved for all of them. It's just not a standard part of this process, but we can certainly
Standard part
ask
of an
it.
RFP though, to scope it correctly.
Yes, but not necessarily to invite them in.
I would imagine that they're not gonna charge us for
So if we do
scoping.
like a Zoom with them. And they're not traveling anywhere, they're hopping on and we can have a work session with them type thing. Where we can go, hey, I don't know, I think.
Yeah, I would
Rebecca,
agree.
kind of like the first person that we had come in that one time.
Yep.
Just to chat with us for half an hour. Obviously, they don't have to come in. I don't know where this company's located at. If it's easier to do it over Zoom, that's fine, or Teams, whatever. And it doesn't have to be, if we do a Teams meeting and do a workshop, posting it online and everybody can hop in on the Teams meeting, if that's possible. Instead of having to come here. I just think having having it more put together.
Right, I just wish we knew that in advance, just for professionalism purposes.
Yeah, no, I get that, and it's.
Yeah, I think they're pretty used to, I mean, most contracts in my professional world, we get a project and then we have a scoping meeting, making sure we have everything that we need. I think it's incredibly important, Jason, for your, to be a part of that because you're the one that's applying it. We're seeing it from our work plan side, so, and I don't, if there's a better number to give them to aim to, that we think that would be.
That's kind of where I was thinking the motion will go. We're still working through it, but land on, going, it sounds like tulip tree is kind of in everybody's scope as the number one choice. So maybe, do we make a motion to go back to them and ask them, tell them even that our budget is not 20,000, but what could we get done for 15? We'll do our best to get another 5 from city council. Something in that 15 to 17 range as our aim. What has to go away in order for that 15K to work? And then from there, I think we can make a decision of, hey, city council, we need another 5. We have to put some skin in the game anyways. Can we put 5,000 in to get who we want to work with and the majority of the scope of work they're willing to do?
So if you, to your question there, if you put the logo design, the tagline development, sub-brand logo design,
Again, I think,
and the project, and we said the project thing, you come up to 15, and you do that, you come up to $15,000.
sure.
And you leave the rest of it, out, you come up with the $15,000. You leave out the brand rollout strategy.
I want to say though, wasn't it said earlier that the 20,000 is inclusive of, these things are interdependent on each other. We can't, it's not à la carte necessarily.
It's not up to us to
They're
necessarily.
breaking it down to show us where 20K came from, but it's not an à la carte menu.
I think Jay, what I'm
It's my
suggesting is we do a
There's a sequence,
phone call
I
with
see
them
it.
to-
Yeah, well, I was just, when you were
It's
asking
not linear.
15,000, if you did those numbers.
Right.
And we did those, if we did, again, if I go back and say those aren't the numbers, what would be logo design, tagline development,
Right.
sub-brand logo design, project management? And what could you do for those issues? Because on that one, the sub-brand design, it says they give us 8 different logos.
I think asking, we may not need 8, we may need 5, right? But I think asking Tulip Tree what they can cut out for $3,000 or $5,000 is probably better than us telling them what to cut out.
Okay, well, I just didn't know if
Or
we,
another avenue to go about that.
Yeah,
It's just a thought.
and that's great. I just didn't know if they're coming back, how much they want to do that stuff and what they can do. So-
Right, then they may say, no, we're not gonna do anything less than 20K because it's not worth our time. Okay, cool, because if all this management, 7,500 is built into those other things, I wouldn't blame them for just turning away and saying no to it.
then what do we do? Do we have a plan B?
Well, the thing, in my opinion, it's gonna come down to this, either Orinoco wants to move forward with branding, or they don't. If all these people turn down and you've got 3 people that are only interested, they say, we had $10,000 and Orinoco didn't wanna put any money into it, then that tells me that they're not interested in the brand. They're not interested in doing anything. And so you can't ask these companies or us to go out and ask for more because they're not willing to add anything to the pie. Plain and simple. You don't get something for, if you put $5,000 in, of the 10, that's, you're only putting 5 and you're getting a $15,000 gift to do what you want to do. You got 15,000 to work with. I would say that to come up with $5,000 is very reasonable and a good gesture for Orinoco, the city of Orinoco and its residents to say, we're interested in moving something forward. If they're not willing to do that, then there's no sense of asking them, well, what's someone gonna do for branding? That's my opinion.
So in the terms and conditions, if you look at that, they have a comment and their estimates are based on up to 2 rounds of revisions after initial concept has been approved for work. So are they saying that we can go back with a request for revision?
That's what I would.
It's the
see it
second-
as.
Second sentence in the.
So they'll
terms
bring
and
forward, we'll have a working session, give them feedback, they'll bring back concepts again.
Yeah,
feedback
that's what I'm
again.
thinking, yeah.
Yep,
So there's some negotiations, as I read it, but I want everybody to make sure.
That's, yeah,
right.
when we get after they do their original research and start bringing back.
Well, that's what I'm thinking
Yep.
too. Then we can have these discussions about,
Mhm.
let them come back to us and say what they can do, like Adam was saying. We want to work with you, we like what you have to offer. It's not that it's out of our price range, but we would like to have some compromises made. And what can you do, and still work with what you can provide us. Because it is a sequence of events, as I see it too, they can tell us what it isn't or not, maybe they'll say, we can take out the package you sign or something, I don't know. But the point is, let them tell us what they can take
Right.
out. Rather than just carte blanche, say, yeah, let's do it. Let's take advantage of this and say, let's see what you can do with it.
And would we just be looking to invite Tulip Tree?
I think so at this point.
Okay.
I really like the way, and maybe all the companies do that, but Jamie made reference to it about how they go through the logo concepts. Because they said they would offer us create up to 8 different logo revisions, or allow, I guess that's their process. Here they did 4, but we go through iterations until number 8 is the sweet spot.
And who knows on the logo, if someone sitting around this table, around this thing, looked at something, and it triggers something in your mind that you say, how about could we do this and help them out to design the logo that actually could enhance.
I'm assuming that's what happens with these. They all
Right.
get feedback from them.
Right, then here you can say, what about this? And put your creative mind together and say, oh, never thought of that.
Yeah, that's exactly why the public interaction is so important. I mean, and that and the steering committee, which would be the city officials, so.
So is the motion on the floor to make a recommendation to move forward with Tulip Tree? Is that that's the
Yes,
current motion?
yes.
And to
So-
enter into like a work session to see, just finalize the scope of work?
So do we need the motion to recommend when we don't know for sure what we're gonna recommend?
Sure. So are we just asking then? So maybe there's not a motion and we're just
I
asking
would
for a work
say-
session?
I would say we consider just go through the process with Tulip until we get to the point what we like, and then go to council with it.
Yeah.
So we want to just invite them to our next EDA meeting?
Do we have to say,
Is a month necessary?
do we have to say so the others two know that we're gonna work with Tulip Tree versus working, and let them know that they're out of the running, that we're gonna work with Tulip Tree?
Do you have capacity in your hours for us to, like, say we recommended someone from the EDA to work with you to get on a call? Jason, I would assume would join that call to work through this and then come back. So then that way we're not waiting for another
Yeah,
month.
we don't need a month. I wouldn't
Yeah.
think it would take a month.
I just
Yeah,
don't
you
know.
could say, making a recommendation to city council that they approve this one contingent upon XYZ.
Getting the best price or something.
And that could be following negotiations.
Because we don't want to get into it. Tulip Tree comes in here, we make the motion to council, and we go round and round with the council with every
Right.
revision. I'd rather just say.
Right,
We've
right,
chosen
Uh-huh.
timber or Tulip Tree, we're gonna work with them,
right.
we come back with a recommendation.
That way they won't feel like we're nickel and diming them if we, yeah.
Well, then
I
I already
agree.
moved my motion, like I said, I didn't know if we needed a motion just to go with the
We
one.
still need it though. So because I think what I'm hearing you recommend is that our EDA is gonna make a recommendation to support the Tulip Tree.
Mhm.
But in that motion, we're also asking that staff work together to scope their project to see if they can tighten the scope of it, of the lower budget.
It's allowed
And that
to-
will- We'll empower staff to do that, and then that would come forward. So then that way it could get onto the next city council.
Nice job.
Is that
I,
right?
So we get some feedback from the council.
Yep.
I didn't record it, but I followed it and I think she just put a motion. I make a motion 2 on the front end and then we're good.
I'd say I was typing the whole time.
That way we're not slowing things down, things can move on. Staff can get involved in making sure that we're trying to get the scope to the right thing. And then that can come forward to city council for final approval. Does that seem right, Jason, in your mind for process?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. So Rebecca, when are you in next?
April 10th, but we could do a Zoom call at any time, any day, so.
One more thought about the motion. Sometimes the motion ends up being an action item and that's okay. But based on what we were thinking about doing here, maybe we should just make an update to the council. Because we're not requiring any action from the council, but just give them an update. We've got companies and we're working with this one company and we're going to go through some potential revisions to work with them. And we'll come back with a recommendation after that update.
But that would put us another 2 months.
I thought the motion here was to have staff set up a time to meet with them to discuss further to really narrow down the scope to bring back to
Council.
council with.
Nothing's going to council at all.
When is council's next meeting?
Or anything?
So I think what we were looking at is that Jason and I would sit down with someone from Tulip Tree and try to narrow it down and bring that price down. And then we are going to recommend that price to council. And we're gonna recommend that council approve that.
So we won't do an update then,
I
this
think-
next month.
And I think
Yeah.
Jamie suggested maybe an EDA member too, you want, I'd be happy to do it, or if you'd
Yeah,
like to
if
do
you
it.
want, just, I would maybe say if there's you're fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind,
To join.
I think we send it out to everybody, and anybody can hop on. We can put it as a workshop
sure,
to make it a
Mhm.
public thing. Anybody who wants to hop on to listen,
yeah.
that's fine. So
And when is the next, city council meeting?
the 17th.
Of April?
Yeah.
So it'd be reasonable that, I mean, we don't need to take any action items to them, but it'd be reasonable that we can get this done before April 17th and have
April 5th.
Oh, yeah,
have something
absolutely.
added to their agenda,
Yeah.
even if.
So we could say that we want to recommend following a work session.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yeah, so that way we don't slow it down. I think seems like as a group, we support the tulip tree. We just want to tighten the scope. It should be staff led with support of the board. And that, then once you have that scope, that would go forward to city council.
Is there any cap that you want to put on as far as dollar amounts?
I would say, if it was me, I'd say, a good thing is 15,000, nothing over 15,000, that's half of what their grant was. The city's putting in 5,000 of money in there, earnest money and good faith money to actually, if they really believe in branding, is what they need.
Right, but that is 25% of their budget.
It's hard to know without their recommendation of what they feel they can take out of this and still deliver to us what we're aiming for. Because it seems like what we're aiming for largely is that logo. And if we can get that out of anything, 15K or less, I think that's awesome. But it also seems like a fairly reasonable number based off of this. But again, you and I can't tell them what their project management, time is worth. That's up to them.
Okay, so we'll leave that portion off and then we will go ahead and recommend to council Tulip Tree. And we will give them their packets of Tulip Tree as soon as we have finalized after the work session, what we could put together.
I'll second the motion.
Aye.
Whoever made the motion.
And then,
Not accepted.
All the amendments.
all in favor, come on.
Hi.
Anything else?
You make a good point about 25%, that's,
Big chunk.
Yeah,
that seems like that's a pretty strong ask. Just my opinion, of course.
Mhm.
I think it's
I
good
don't
to
know
go.
if- I'd just rather have them tell us
yep,
than us telling them what we only accept.
Yeah.
Because they could really get really turned off by that, and we're just looking to work with
Right.
them
Right,
for what's in the revisions here. So I would let them give us a better figure on all those other steps leading up to the 7,500.
yep.
Great.
Okay.
We're good.
Would you want to make an attempt to read back what we have?
So I have that we would be recommending Tulip Tree to city council and I have staff, but I'll put EDA and staff. Have host a work session to work the scope of the project prior to council presentation to lower costs.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Good.
Awesome. And then would you like me to let both of the others know that we are moving on probably with Tulip Tree? Or do you want me to say we're going into further negotiations with another one? Because I don't want to just keep them hanging.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Is there anything that we're out of line with what was requested from the RFP? You made some reference early on, but is that gonna be a rub with?
All three of these completely followed the RFP. It was just a matter of how detailed they got. Like, for example, Tulip Tree went in, they read between the lines, I feel like, in the RFP, whereas everyone else just kind of followed word by word, if that makes sense.
Not to get by.
Like the fact that, like Jamie said, like they showed you all those different types of logos and the different applications for them. It wasn't just a page full of logos. You know, they made sure that they showed those little
Concept of
pieces.
How it made it.
Mhm.
How it works.
Yep.
Right? Um,
I think it would be appropriate maybe just because it will not be approved until council takes action.
Right.
So we could help them to understand that we anticipate that there'll be council action at the next meeting. And that, you know, we are having discussions with a different, firm. But I just want to make sure that we're not saying that an action has been taken until council actually takes the action.
We'll update them though. Do you all want to, discuss potential dates that might work for everybody to do this work session? Or else I can also send out an email over and put out a couple of good dates and see what kind of feedback we get. And whichever day has the most people available, we go with.
why don't you ask Tulip what they can do? and then we can-
Yeah,
Yep, that's what I mean. And
Yeah.
I'll put out an email to you guys to see which date works best.
yeah,
Okay, because I'll just ask them for like their top 5.
Yeah.
yeah.
So what should be included in the packet, council packet? All of these 3 or just crack 2 of them?
I think from what I'm hearing anywhere and from the recommendation would be that we would give them the updated tulip tree.
Yeah,
We certainly could give them copies of all of them if they wanted to be able to see it. But I could also put together just a brief comparison sheet, but I mean,
We want to keep focused on what EDA is proposing.
right.
yep. Well, because
Sure.
do you think council's going to be asking to see any of the other ones or what the other ones were? I mean, granted, you'd be able to speak to what. Because really that's kind of up to you guys, I mean, council, but otherwise I would say just to put in the one and then we'll put in why we chose that one. And I'll take all that from our work session. I'll type that up and we'll have a written recommendation to go with it.
Put that in a memo. to put in the
Because you
packet.
certainly don't want to go back and have this work session with tulip tree and then the council go through all the different things and say, well, maybe we should go with, you know,
Yep, absolutely.
That's part of the trust.
Yep. So I'll make sure that we have a memo to go to council and then I will just ask Tulip Tree after the work session to provide an updated packet.
okay, perfect.
Small business surveys, started those today.
Yes, we did. I spent some time, working to put together, a schedule for me to go from business to business. Today I was able to go visit Two Sisters and Glenn's Motor Coach. After speaking with Two Sisters, something that they're looking at is on their property up there, their forward-thinking plan for this is that they're looking at putting up 4 different structures. One of those would be 5,200 square feet, one at 10,000 square feet, and 2 at about 6,000 square feet. And they actually are working with someone who's helping them with trying to vet some different businesses. They're looking for a little more upscale, so they're thinking of like a specialty grocery and liquor store that would do like high-end liquor and cigars, that would do the types, you know, if you wanted a charcuterie board. So, you know, you have the dollar store to be able to take your, you know, your regular everyday items, and then they would be where you'd go and they'd have, you know, the big deli. So you go get your fresh cut meat and those kinds of things. They also had, Stonefire Pizza was one of them. A recreational apparel store. They also were looking at potentially utilizing at least one franchise. Subway was the one that they kind of suggested. Otherwise, yeah, boutique style shops are what they're kind of aiming for. So just a little upper scale to kind of match with their business up there. So that's kind of what they're looking at. They did say that until they have committed people for these projects, that they won't be coming back to the city to do anything yet. So it'll be a little bit down the line, but I will be keeping up with them. And I told them I'd be doing at least monthly check-ins just to see where they're at in the process. So that I think is really encouraging. I know that there was a lot of back and forth with some previous projects, but it does look like they still they have a very high desire to stay in Orinoco.
What were those square footage again?
One at 5,200.
Yep.
One at 10,000,
2 at 6,000.
and two at 6,000.
6,000.
Yep, and there's two of them at 6,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, that, I mean, that kind of thing sounds to me like in the early stages of EDA, what we talked about our function being. Not that we have to go out and help them find tenants, but through our networking and through our existence, having some ideas of people that are interested in this community already and pairing them with the Two Sisters potentially could be an area where we actually or can visually see value being brought by the EDA, right? That sort of thing would be connecting dots that would make you feel good.
And they
And be
did
and be
state,
helpful to them.
they did state that they went to the, was it early this month, for the development, they had that community meeting?
Yeah, for the. on the other
Yeah,
lot,
they
were
said
there.
that both of the ladies were there and that they were very, very much in favor of the idea of bringing in some more residential there, so. They did bring up the discussions that always keep happening regarding, traffic. Cause I think that usually is one of the bigger items that kind of keeps coming up. And they did make, a pitch that unless they're lost, they're not going to be going through the residential areas, because of where everything is located. So that I do think was,
The developer for the condos,
Mhm.
say that, yeah.
well, no, that's what both of the two sisters were saying, yeah.
Okay.
So they were both very much in favor of the housing developments that we've been discussing. They also mentioned the Hamilton project and their favor for that. So it was nice to know that they, as a business right there, that they are very much
Interested in more
yeah.
customers?
They were absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
Is the King property moving? Anything on the King property?
I think that one is on pause until council finishes approving all of the ordinance changes, because I think they're waiting to be able to know. I think Hamilton's waiting on that as well.
Hamilton is King, I'm not sure. whether-
Oh, no, yes, King, it was the annexation
Right.
issue,
So
yeah.
but Hamilton is definitely the codes, yeah.
The other one that I did today was Glenn's Motor Coach Tours. They are actually going to be also looking at expanding in the near future. They did state that, when the building was built, because they only purchased it about a year ago, the way that it's completely flat on the one side all the way up is because they're looking at just mirroring their building. And that would be the extension, so that they could just double their bus space and their staff. They wouldn't be looking at doing it obviously this year, but that's what their plan is on the horizon. They did mention they have a really, really hard time finding drivers, because of the fact that they're the insurance companies that insure for that type of driver requires a driver to have 2 years of commercial driving experience. And that's, I guess, been really difficult for them to find, because then you have to send someone to go drive a school bus for 2 years, or, a metro bus for 2 years, and then hope that they're gonna come back and wanna work.
Wow.
there,
if you
so
have a
that's where they're-
commercial License for 12, I've had my commercial license for 50 years.
You qualify.
Yeah, I know, I've done that.
They did say the majority of their drivers are retired. I mean, it makes sense, but.
A lot of
Yeah.
downtime.
We did also discuss their potential marketing opportunities. They have never worked with Explore Minnesota before, so I did recommend that they kind of get in touch with them. I'm going to put together just some information about Explore Minnesota for them and email it over. Because I do, especially when you're going out of state and potentially bringing, people
Right.
ideas back to Minnesota, they have a lot of funding that's available for those types of activities. So they might be able to, put for free, they could put their ad in, or for a super low amount, put their ad in on the Explore Minnesota annual, books that go out, the marketing books. So it'd be something that we might be able to help them with, doing some extra advertising through them.
Did they ever, just out of curiosity, the Twins games, the,
I was just gonna
Why
say,
can't-
So they're part of a larger company that has multiple locations with
Ah.
lots of buses, so they
Well,
have all kinds, if you jump on their website, you'll see
okay,
all the different trips they do, and so they do,
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily Twins, but there's all kinds of trips.
That's good.
they do, and the point is another one is, the wineries through, to go around, into a little bit into Wisconsin, down across here, you do a wine trips for the day. I mean, there's things that people would put together to help their business out, and it's a day trip.
And Renee actually very specifically brought that up today, was that they are actually looking at focusing on adding a lot more of those days. But their biggest problem again is just the driver shortage. But they did say that they've done a few of them and that they've been incredibly successful. And that people have really enjoyed themselves on them. And she said they did a NASCAR thing once. But yeah, Twins games, football games, so.
is Glenn's is the franchise, is that right? It's a
I
big,
don't know what it's
Or
called,
maybe
I mean, they
I-
have multiple locations with different trips.
Yeah, it's,
Like, that you can sign up for and things that they do.
yeah, I think Glenn specifically, because Glenn was Renee's dad who initially owned it, so the Glenn's portion is local.
The bus guys, they all belong to an organization, a big organization, so if they need more buses, when they did the golf up in the cities, when they had the
PGA.
big tournament here
Yeah,
up there, then they take all the bus companies get together, because there's not one company that can handle all the busing of the people to the golf course.
yeah, the
All the
demand.
participants, so it's.
Yep.
Anyway,
So I will be working on getting them contacted with Explore Minnesota. I'm going to do a little bit of due diligence beforehand, just to make sure that I can send them just the information they need. But that's kind of the follow-up that I will have with them. I do have for April 10th, my next day in town, I already have one scheduled with Shad Tracy Designs. And then I've also got calls out, and I will be doing follow-up phone calls to try and get additional meetings scheduled those days. But all of the information I've been putting into a spreadsheet that I've created that will be on a Google Drive, which means that even if someday Orinoco decides they don't want to be in contact with CETA, you guys will all continue to have access, and it's gonna literally list all the interactions that I have with those businesses. It's gonna have all of the information about their property, all of that. So it'll be something that'll be nice to be able to build and be able to maintain over time, so.
on the Rochester News, it said that the building up over here, that the Greens or something on Second Street, is moving out here. Look on the news, it said they'd be moving to Orinoco.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff and Julie Green.
Yeah, Jeff, that it's the white building by.
Right, I knew that, but I knew that was,
Yeah,
they said that.
Shades
was-
Green will be in the front, and then the bistro is gonna be in the middle to the back, so.
Yep.
Is that
Days
this-
of, and 99 Giggles, I believe is
Yeah.
the name.
Right store in the subway of them.
Yeah,
Schedule.
and they're looking at doing, the same basic thing, right? Yeah. Cause, sorry, the ladies at, Two Sisters brought those two up and said, you need to reach out and talk to them. So that was on my
Okay.
list of to-dos.
Is there plan this spring?
That's my
I
understanding.
think sometime this year, I think it's,
And you said bistro?
because they're closed in town, you know, it's gonna have a kitchen and a bar.
Really?
And at 40 Minnesota Avenue is apparently where they're at in Rochester, if you want to check them out.
So they currently own a store in the
No,
subway.
No, 40
Minnesota
Minnesota
Avenue's
Avenue's here.
Oh, never mind.
Come on, now, that's Main Street, honey.
The
Well,
family
they-
owns.
Downtown.
They're on Second
I was gonna say, they are downtown if you want to Google them and go visit, sorry.
That's
Their store is currently in the subway at the Taylor
Oh, it
Grand
is?
Hotel.
Okay.
Correct, yep.
As I figured I would go down there and
Very cute.
check it out, so.
All right, I gave you an update, I guess, on the grants, the 10,000.
The only notes that I have for that is that I wasn't able to make a full application to the Taylor Family Farms recreation grant because part of that is that we had to submit our copy of our city budget, and that's fairly typical, just a copy of the audit. And they came back stating that we wouldn't qualify because Parks and Rec doesn't have a large enough budget to cover a match. Well, for the budget of the project, it wouldn't be able to cover that, and that there wasn't any incidental fund to be able to help cover that. So we were kind of taken out of that because of the potential possibilities, so. Other than that, no, the Smith Small Towns Grant is the one that we're currently working on, and and everything's going well with that. And then when I look at my coordinator's report, it's pretty much, the only thing that's, I didn't bring up is it does show the 7 specific businesses that I had reached out to over the past, since the last meeting to meet with. I'll be adding to that now that I've scheduled 3, so I'll be going and adding more.
Not on your list,
Who?
Camping World. The other RV dealer,
Oh, yep.
and I'd reach out to Peoples if you haven't.
Yep, I figured I'd just grab a meeting with Marty. Are there any businesses that aren't listed here other than the other RV location that you would really like to see happen sooner rather than later?
Find in my list.
Oh, on the back.
The one business is,
There we
Mystique Boutique?
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
They work out of home, but they have a bus. They take, in fact, they take it up to 2 sisters. They were there last weekend, maybe once or twice a month. They have them sit in the parking lot.
Okay,
But I would reach out to them too.
yep, absolutely.
Orinoco online auctions.
Okay.
Who's, is that a business that's selling these, he's got all those, sheds next to, Orinoco auction? I mean, he's got a bunch of sheds there. Is that just, is that a business or is that?
Radke is his last name.
Right. Oh, I
What's
know
that?
better.
Right.
There's this,
Talking the ones next to the car dealership?
I don't know, he's got, I think he lives in one. Prefer God, I think the guy's living in one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the north of, on,
Well, you got that by itself, and then he's back this way. He's between,
Brandon.
he's between, Orinoco Online Auction and by
I'll check
itself.
it out. Actually, I'll check out on my way out of town tonight. I'll drive by
He's got some
online
sheds,
auctions and see
storage
if I
sheds
can.
there that's got for sale. I just curious. I know he's
Yeah.
living in one of them.
Yeah, we'll see if he's got any, like a business name or contact
Okay.
info on there that
I
I
don't
can.
see any business there named that, just what I
Yep.
said.
yeah, there's a sign that's got a website. I'm trying to remember what it.
Oh, yeah, I'll just drive by tonight and I'll grab that and then you put them on my list.
I did bring up,
You have Thompson's garage door.
Nope, I'll get that on there too.
And what's that guy across the street? He's always advertising.
Hawk
Hank
Services.
Hawks.
Hawks, you got Hawks, and you got the car dealer or the car repair shop there.
That's Joe's.
Isn't that Hawks?
No, the guy who does, with the gentleman, he works out, he does car repair there, right across from Thompson's.
It's not Discount Auto, is it?
I don't know what he calls this, what he
Yeah,
calls
Joe's just kind of,
Is that Discount Auto there?
it. Is that okay?
What about the little lumberyard down there?
You got them and you got Northland Builders.
advanced hardwood.
Yeah. You
Casey's.
know what I'm talking about there?
Advanced Building Center, and then the lumberyard, Discount Auto Services, right?
Yeah, Casey's, I wouldn't, I mean, you have a store manager, but it's all corporate owned, so. I don't think
But what
it's-
about the other one? That gas and goes local, isn't it?
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. The gentleman that owns Advanced, hardwood, owns that gas and go.
Oh, okay.
What is, when you go out there, sorry to interrupt everybody, but when you go, I am curious, when you go out to the road that gets to the road that gets you on the highway on 52, if you go across that on the gravel towards the sewer, what is the big Morton building off to the right?
That's belongs to Marquine, just a storage building,
What do they store?
his toys.
Oh, is that just some wealthy person?
Big things.
Undescribable things. Okay, that's okay. I don't have.
Storage.
Yeah, it's a storage place for he has a couple of pieces of construction equipment. and-
Okay,
Yeah.
just a big
So
building.
it is
isn't
very
it?
nice, yeah.
If you think of any other businesses that you really want me to reach out to right away, just shoot me an email.
Storage shed, I don't think it's much of a thing.
Somebody say
I wouldn't worry
Tilly's
too much
already?
about that.
Tilly's is on my list, yep. Yeah, they're harder to get in touch with. I gotta be very careful what time I call
I
to
think this
try and
is
get it when they're not
interesting
busy.
because, you know, they're at home, out of her home business, but I think that'll be interesting to,
Mhm.
because there's probably other people in the community that do business out of their home that,
Oh, yeah, there's,
Did you do the storage unit up there?
Which one were you referring to just
The
now?
guy has all the storage units up
this
there?
boutique.
Just the-
Up by Thompson's overhead door, these owns all that.
She went from her renting up
Yeah.
there to having it right in her home.
Oh, in her home.
Well,
They have a store in Stewartville too now, right?
oh,
Because
do they?
I think that's where their physical store is.
Oh, I didn't realize
we
that.
have realtors that live in town, they want to start their own business, so maybe they will.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Once we get everybody in, I think maybe putting everybody on our city website with, links to their their, contact information,
Very
that type of stuff, I think would be excellent once we've got everybody together. Along with a nice link at the bottom that says, if you're not on this list and you want to be, click
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah.
What is the city's policy on home businesses? Like to what degree can a person have? I remember when I moved into River Park, my neighbor across the street was wanting to do a U-shaped driveway. And that was a big deal at the time but like, my wife has done a couple different businesses out of her home. Sometimes where she has customers, right now she does spray tans. So people come into our home for half hour, and off they go and $50 and it's a pretty good business, from home. But like, is there a certain amount of traffic or a certain amount of, where's the cutoff for, you can't do that in your home? Cause you mentioned Sisti Boutique, I think I know those people and to what degree, I mean, is it?
Yeah, because they came to the city council.
What-
There's conditional use permits. For example, the Hangs Motor or,
Oh, yeah.
he has
Lawn
he has
care?
a conditional use permit.
Okay,
That
meaning he
use-
can park big stuff in the driveway and that's okay?
Right, he wouldn't expand his garage for his business to store things.
Yep.
And, but he had to get a conditional use permit and
Ah,
use his house.
Okay.
So, I know there's a painter in our development,
yeah, Marshall.
And sometimes the conditional use permits are used for parking.
Yep.
If you have people coming to your business, you have to have a parking,
Okay.
Over Riverwood Hills, there's a lady that has studios and homeschooling
Yeah.
and so they come to the
And there's
council.
photographers too up in Cedar Woodlands, and they're a pretty popular photographer in Cedar Woodlands. They've got some, little bridge in their backyard when you're walking down the path.
senior photos.
I feel like maybe some of those small home businesses, and I don't know to what degree we're trying to promote businesses, but yeah, there's a whole laundry list of small.
And there's people who are, brewing, making or roasting coffee beans in their garages or those kind of things. And they just follow the Minnesota cottage law.
You can sell that in Roanoke?
I don't know if you can sell it, but you can grow it.
Wait,
what's the address, Kathy?
I'm like, does Orinoco have an ordinance for that yet?
It's all.
Oh, okay, because I'm like, do we have that?
County.
I think that's all.
That's good. Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Meeting adjourned.
Motion adjourned.
there we go.
What kind of dangerous ground? Do you need a second or anything?
Second, yeah.
I'll second.
All right.
Favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right, next meeting will be April 22nd, but I will get in touch with you guys with some dates to meet with Tulip Tree.
Great, thank you.
So 7:50.